at mid-range, like 13 to 17 kilometers is where I consider mid-range.
Yeah.
Other really important rules of the Zao is wrecking DDs. The accuracy and ballistics make the Zao probably the best cruiser for killing DDs in general.
And alpha.
As well as the concealment that allows you to get a little bit closer to fuck them up. And
Definitely.
then also spamming thousands of annoying as shit torps that if people forget to pop Hydro once will wipe them out.
And most importantly,
farming damage.
Farming damage off the battleships.
But not in clan battles.
Well, definitely, I think 12, 13 kilometers. I think that's a good number, only because like you're at that stealth torp range, and you can still break detection. I think that's pretty key. Anything closer, it gets too dicey. Things start hitting you too much.
And then another key thing is to know what your AP and HE are capable of. So Zao HE only has enough pen to do 32 millimeters of armor. So if you're seeing GK, particularly in randoms, generally don't focus it. I would prefer to focus something that I'm actually effective at killing, like Republique, Conqueror. Leave GKs to Hindenburgs and Henry IVs in general if you can. If you do force attack a Hindenburg, or sorry, a GK, my general strategy is to land a salve in the superstructure, get a fire, try to get a second fire. They'll DCP, then I try to get one more perma fire, and then I just move on to another target in general when I'm attacking GKs. I don't try to spam too much at them because their superstructure saturates quite quickly, and then you just start getting shatters, which is really frustrating.
Right, that middle section is pretty much shattered. Will shatter the HE, right?
Pretty much the whole thing, really. It's really heavily armored in terms of military plating. Maybe the very front of the...
Yeah, I think it's very small sections of the front and the back deck, but it's not that straightforward to hit at range. Yeah. I mean, not for a snapshot.
All right, so basically the front quarter of the deck and the rear, like 10 meters.
Yeah. It's something ridiculous.
All the rear plating, except for a large section under at the waterline area. Basically, the entire side of the bow. Yeah, there's very little armor you can penetrate on a GK with Zao HE. Just aim for the superstructure, get 2 fires, hope that they burn DCP, and then get 1 or 2 more. Also, torpedoes are very effective against GKs.
GK is one I'm wary of, though. Like, more so, almost on the same level as Yamada. Like, I think the guns are kind of trolly because of that dispersion. So you can just dodge the main salvo and still eat a full sit because of that. Like some.
Don't forget the GK cannot overmatch your upper belt armor though, because it doesn't have 430s. So if you angle effectively, you should be mostly safe. I was recording 3 random games. I'm going to upload them at some point that show how I play Zao. They're not cherry-picked games. They're just random games, although they were very good games. And in one of them, I get killed by a GK, and that's mostly because I over-angled rather than if I'd actually shown a bit more broadside, I wouldn't have got overmatched and killed the way I did.
Actually, speaking of broadsides, do we know if those cruiser armor plating changes are in, or that's something they're thinking about, right?
They're thinking about it. I haven't heard anything really concrete about
it. Pretty long ways off.
It sounds like they're going to buff cruiser belts.
Right,
armor.
But if, because I think the discussion is if they're going to buff it based upon thickening some armor there, actually we're going to take more pens is what it seems like to me, unless I don't know how they're going to do it, right? So, whereas, some of the Zao's troll armor is partly to do with you'll actually get overpens through the middle.
Well, but you're not making the actual ship thicker, so your detonation timer is not going to change.
I'd have to do the calculations to remember. Isn't it the overmatch thickness is the fusing thickness for most shells, Todd? Anyway, I'd have to figure it out actually, like mathematically, and see if there was an issue. But hopefully these changes are wild off, particularly those ones with light cruisers and heavy cruisers. They sound unpleasant, at least to me.
Yeah.
So I guess everybody here, I know Paizo, you play Zao. You've played Zao a couple of times for us, but not a whole lot. Kaiser has tried Zao, but we mostly just force him into playing Des Moines and Worcester because we love Kaiser. And he loves playing the same ship over and over and over for clan battles. I guess one of the things right now, at least on the YouTube stream, I got just some random video of I think this is season 2 or 3 of Clan Battles. I forget which one. Probably 3, because I don't think season 2 had the Zao 12-kilometer torps, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that was season 2 or season 3 that had that. So, but yeah, basically, Zao is a pretty damn good cruiser for clan battles. Most people, or most clans, like to run this just because of its concealment. The reason why, like, our alpha team last season ran 3 Zaos, and the reason why we did that is its concealment allowed us to dictate the battle on our own terms. Like, we could just say, oh, you know, screw this, I don't want to take this fight, I'm just going to go dark. Or you could use it to set up ambushes.
And
what?
A big reason for the significant boost in the Zao's popularity this past season was the nerf to the Hindi's DPM, which is kind of what it had going for it, and the buff to the Zao torpedoes that let it zone better.
I'd say mostly the torpedoes.
Mm-hmm. Well, but we saw.
I would argue it's mostly the Hindenburg DPM.
I think it's both. It's a large part of both. Because it shortened or closed the gap between the damage output of the two.
Yeah, but I guess either way, like, you know, there was a shot a few seconds ago where I just did 30k damage to a Hindenburg that went broadside to me. I mean, that's pretty significant. Its AP, when used right, is really good. One of the mistakes I make often in it, and I'm really working to get better, and I think in this video, if anybody's watching the stream, I'm about to make that same mistake. I switch between AP and HE a lot, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It's AP when something is angled to you, does almost like next to nothing. There's not many ships that can really... I don't think there's any tier 10 ships that can just overmatch, right? Straightforward.
None.
So yeah, it's HE still does what, like between 6 and 10k salvos each one, depending on how much you hit. So its HE is super powerful. If you get a flat broadside and that target is not turning, its AP is super devastating. But essentially, I'm teaching myself to only use it when something's flat broadside. Like there was a game, and actually I don't think it's this one, but there was a game where there's just a Moskva broadside to me, and another one right behind him. I got 17 citadels that game because they were completely dead in the water, and they couldn't move forward fast enough to get out of my way, or to get out of my salvos. So it's super devastating. But one of the biggest mistakes people make, myself included, is switching all the time. It loses fights. The other big thing that people bring up between the Hindenburg and the Zao, not that the Hindenburg had its DPM buff, where it doesn't reload as fast, is the Zao, because it has higher alpha damage, in the end they do very similar damage. It's very, very comparable. I believe the comparison was done where both are using range mod though. So reload mod does change things if you are talking about reload mod Hindenburg. But for the most part, they come super close. So that really changes things. The biggest difference between the Zao and the Hindenburg is the concealment is better in the Zao, but the health and armor are better on the Hindenburg. So do you want something that's stealthier, or do you want something that's tankier in the end of it? And we chose stealth.
I'll make a few little additions here. On the DPM thing, we're talking about HE DPM, which is generally the most relevant one for Clan Wars. Stock, the Zao actually has higher HE DPM than the Hindenburg, even though its reload is about 5 seconds longer or so, or 4. A lot of people run DPM Hindenburg, though, and that does make the Hindenburg have slightly higher DPM. But in exchange, the Zao gets the same range as the Hindenburg while having better ballistics and accuracy. It's also worth mentioning that the Zao is significantly narrower than the Hindenburg and faster. And in general, the gun performance is excellent on the Zao. So in a one-on-one fight, I would usually expect the Zao to win versus the Hindenburg.
Hindenburg's HE is going to be a little more effective against battleships, though, because it does have that quarter pen. So in terms of like ability to consistently do damage over time with HE. Hindi has the edge, but that's really not how it usually plays out in clan battles.
Yeah, but that's mostly very apparent versus GKs, which aren't super common in clan battles. Versus Yamato, there are a few sections of armor that only Hindi can penetrate, but I mean, a well-aimed Zao can still do a lot of damage to a Yamato.
With all that being said, too, Moskva and Stalingrad are also now thrown into that too, because they have the 50mm deck. So keep in mind, if there are more Moskvas and Stalingrads, Hindenburg will be a great counter, or IFHE Henry. So essentially, Zao will still do okay damage, mostly from fires though, but they won't be able to pen that deck armor. So I would not be surprised if Hindenburg or IFHE Henry become more popular there. I guess that kind of just depends on your clan's preference. Hindenburg is about as fast as the Montana, so that's the other reason why we really preferred Zao, is it was a lot faster along with being stealthier, so you can maneuver faster. And one of the jokes we made is Kozuro being bait. It was actually kind of off of a real thing, because I paused this video here. For anybody watching the stream, I put it up in announcements. But basically, I'm stern tanking to a point where I'll get spotted first, but initially when the game starts, we have the Hindenburg get spotted first. They turn broadside, and I was able to do that 30k salvo. But right here, this like significant concealment buff is I outspot the Des Moines, the Hindenburg, and the Moscow right there. So as long as I'm faced away, if they come towards me, I will see them first. I can hit the W key and get away. Even if all three of them charge me, I'll at least be able to run, dump torpedoes in their way, and then let my teammate know that they're coming, and we'll get them at an angle. So we're positioned, if they come around that corner, I'll be able to run away, and then he will likely be the first thing spotted, and I can re-maneuver around to get their broadside. And the Hindenburg is a little bit more tankier, so he'll likely survive a little bit more of a punishment. And that's the tactic we were using. The whole Kozuro as bait thing was a joke, because it was sort of our strategy for a little bit. It doesn't really work against high-level teams, so I wouldn't really take that into a high-level play or anything, but it was a fun tactic we used for a little bit.
Well, the other thing is that we already knew where their DD was.
That too, yeah. So we knew their DD. They had one DD. It was over in the sea cap here. So we had no worry of the DD spotting us. There's 3 ships, and the Zao outspots all of them. The stealthiest cruiser with them is the Des Moines, which is concealment is 10.6. The Zao is 9.7. So by almost a whole kilometer, it outspots the Des Moines, and it's faster than most of those.
Do you want to talk about some, for example, the build that we recommend in clan battles?
Yeah, I can pull that up too on the stream. This is the general captain build. Let me kind of go off of it. There's a few different options. You can change them around a little bit depending on your play. I take priority target and preventative maintenance and expert loader as my tier, 1 point captain skills. Then I take adrenaline rush, then superintendent, then concealment, radio location, and I take survivability expert just to help a little bit with that health. Because there's no CVs in clan battles, you don't need to put it in AFT or manual AA or anything like that. So survivability expert, I feel it just gives you a little bit of boost of your health, since I think Zao has the lowest health pool of any tier 10 cruiser.
By a pretty significant margin.
I don't know if it's I think it is the lowest, right?
It's got 40,800, and I don't know what the Minotaurs is. I'd have to look it up, but
yeah, Minotaurs is the only one that's competitive with that.
I guess if you didn't want survivability expert, you could trade demolition expert. That would be viable, but again, the big difference is tier 10 ships have such a good fire reduction that I haven't actually noticed not having demolition expert. So there's me. I throw on the fire flags to kind of counteract that. But you could trade those two. That's also a good viable build. You can also then trade preventative maintenance and expert loader for expert marksman if you really hate the turret traverse. The way I play Zao is generally a little bit stealthier and repositioning until I have that good shot. So expert loader wasn't as, expert marksman wasn't as significant for me. So
expert loader is also a really nice skill in the Zao.
yeah,
super painful reload if you have to switch.
And I'm also using it as a crutch for my poor mistakes of switching shells too often. It kind of helps my dumb brain a little bit.
Some things, Demolition Expert's not super useful in the Zao, and I love Demolition Expert in general, but it only increases your fire chance by about 10%, and that's going to increase your fire damage by about 10% in the long run. And for me, I do 60,000 fire damage in random battles, maybe, lucky. So that's 6,000 damage per game. It's not a huge benefit, but I do run it in randoms because I don't run RPF in randoms. And then also on the tier 1 skills, I'm actually considering swapping out preventative maintenance for incoming fire alert purely based on the recommendation of William the Deck, I think it was.
Yeah, I'm going to be trying that out. Clan Battles is rumored to be starting in the next couple of weeks, which, based off the past, means free respecs. I'm going to be trying it out for sure. The whole mentality behind that is, I don't know if incoming fire alert will be as useful in clan battles because it's typically slower. I don't think it'll hurt, but maybe I like preventative maintenance because my torpedo tubes get knocked out super easily. But that also just comes down, those 2 points just come down to a preference. I don't think it'd be super bad either way.
One thing worth mentioning is that I don't find that I don't run preventative maintenance on my current build, and I generally don't find I lose turrets too often in randoms, because if you're getting shot at that much, you're probably going to die before it's actually an issue.
I should say this is my clan battles build. I'm not sure if I'd change my random battles build a whole lot, but this is specifically geared towards clan battles.
And then Ariok just asked a question, why do you take survivability expert instead of basics of survivability? Zao's a cruiser. It's got a very small health pool, so fires do damage based on a percentage of your health. Zao, as far as tier 10s go, has the least damage taken from a fire except for destroyers, and it's not, you don't take a lot of damage from fires. Also, pen damage adds up a lot more quickly when you have such a small health pool. So in general, if I take 2 fires, I just DCP them when I'm in a Zao, and I'm usually not on fire that much.
Another thing,
in the last Zao game I played, I took 4,700 fire damage, so 15% of that is like 600 damage.
Right. And I think this is probably just personal preference, but I hate slow turret traverse. And so my personal preference for tier 2 is on the Zao. At least I do like to run expert marksman because it's a really maneuverable ship. You're going to be turning everywhere. You're going to be kiting away, and I hate waiting for my turrets to catch up. And so sacrificing a little bit of DPM by not taking Adrenaline Rush and instead taking Expert Marksman lets me get all my guns on target quicker so that I can get fire on target quicker. I don't know if you guys agree that it's
no, definitely. It's
fair, like equal trade, but
it's just preference there. Some people can't stand that. The slow turrets. I've kind of gotten used to it. So, and like I said, I also use expert loader as a crutch for my my poor play in some ways. Once I get out of that, maybe I won't take expert loader. Maybe I still will. I don't know, but that is a preference thing.
Personally for me, definitely Hypnotic's making fun of me again, but it's like if I had expert loader in certain situations, it definitely would be much more comfortable. And I mean, being able to punish a broadside like within 6 seconds, given the reload time, is I think hugely beneficial. But I think it is the difference between a CB build versus a random build. In random, I think EM is evasive. Extra marksman is definitely better because you're kiting more. Let's say you're farming damage.
You want to have all your guns on target as quickly as possible.
Like I said, in clan battles, especially if you have a good coordinated team and you're using the Zao stealth, you're gonna have that time in most situations to readjust yourself, where the turret traverse isn't as apparent, and you're generally having less targets and you're more focused on a single target or two. So it's not as noticeable, but it still is noticeable. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, my COTS build doesn't have it. I know it's so painful without it.
Yeah.
Well, being
So-
used to it, right? So,
Yeah, you're not kiting in 12 different directions like you would be in a randoms game where there's 12 people on each team. Clan Battles is only 7, so your enemy base is cut in half, essentially.
very true.
So yeah, this is the captain build, and I'm gonna go into the ship build, the upgrades for the ship. And this one I actually want some people's feedback on it, Zao players. So this isn't as popular, but I take the legendary mod, which increases your dispersion and rudder shift, which I actually use that to then take propulsion modification, so I can move faster to try to dodge torpedoes, shells, everything a little bit easier. I feel like the steering gears already turn pretty quickly enough as they are, especially then you add the legendary mod. So that's why I take propulsion. If you don't have the legendary mod, take steering gears for sure. So I actually like using propulsion to move out of the way a little bit, especially as how I mentioned we use it, where I sit stern tanking, waiting for the enemy to get into the range where I can spot them, or if they happen to spot me first, then I can get the hell out of there faster by hitting the W key and accelerating out of the way quicker. So this might not be as popular. I've really found it useful. I really like it.
It also gives you 8% range boost, so you get half of the range mod as well.
Yeah, so your distance is 17.53 kilometers with the legendary mod. If you go to the range mod, you get 18.83, sorry.
18.8.
Yeah, so it's not a huge significant difference. It is noticeable because Zao, you typically want to be at range. It's a squishy ship. But I make that up by using spotter plane.
You end up getting pretty close to the range of a reload spec Hindi.
Yes. So that's the other thing is 17.5 is still a decent range to be fighting at, and if you're smart about your engagements, it could work. And yeah, you Hypnotic, you can use spotter plane mod. I actually generally take it too. They are changing spotter plane around a little bit, so I guess I left it out of there just to see what they actually change it to. But spotter plane mod, this one over here, is viable.
I was just going to ask, because I mean, if you're going to take preventative maintenance in your captain skill, then you could probably do away without main arms.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know not everybody has that, so.
I'll counter with, even with preventative maintenance, you still lose torpedo troops quite frequently in the Zao.
They are easy.
Seem to be fairly vulnerable. And then also on Grusky subject, I personally run steering gears mod too, because you can get down to 4.9 second rudder shift.
Even with legendary mod?
I do have legendary mod as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm running the same as well.
But
on that.
Generally, the way I dodge in the Zao is I generally slow down to maybe half speed while turning away in general. And so in that case, decelerating isn't helped by acceleration mod. So,
and neither is
as
accelerating if you're starting from more than 6 knots.
So yeah, for me, it really doesn't help me that much the way I play.
Yeah, it only helps if you're at -6 to +6 knots. Anything outside of that range, it'll have no effect whatsoever. So it's getting a good start off the line, off the starting blocks. Which, if you're stern tanking and you want to get out of there quick, is good, but don't expect it to help you when you're kiting at speed.
Is there any follow-up for a steering gear mod then?
Yeah, so you can get your ship turning really fast, pretty much at DD levels if you go double steering gears, or you go legendary mod and steering gears. So if you're planning to continually kite while moving at speed, there's definitely a lot of value in doing doubling up on that. But if you're going to be doing kind of the stern tanking, where you wait to detect an enemy ship and then hit it once you do to keep out of detection range, then you might want to go for the propulsion mod just so that you can get up to speed fast enough.
Yeah, so like when I say this propulsion, mod over steering gears if running legendary mod, I am talking about clan battles where I'm speaking in the sense where you're supposed to be that spotting ship. And once you get detected, you want to run away. So typically I'm sitting still at that point. So that's why I'm in favor of it. But again, I've only tested this in skirmishes. So, that could be wrong. Right now I'm liking it so far. But it seems the most popular opinion is to take steering gears modification too, so I'd say take that one over that because mine isn't fully tested yet.
Another thing to keep in mind is you can turn as fast as you want, but if previous seasons are anything to go by, there's going to be a lot of Yamatos, and the Yamato doesn't care what angle you're at.
Mm-hmm.
So you can turn as fast as you want, you're still going to get hit, and you're still going to take pens. So
that's why when dodging, it's important to also play with your speed as well as your turning.
Right.
So that's the other thing is running RPF is super valuable. On the video I have playing on the stream, I use it to essentially as a poor man's radar. I can tell generally like the specific instance, the RPF is pointing right at the volcano on hotspot, so I know they're hiding behind that island. They're not of any threat to me. Had it moved to my right, I know they're going to be flanking around that side. Since it's towards the volcano, kind of tells me they're pushing through the center, which they're now spotted and pushing through the center. It's super valuable to be able to know this. Zao typically does best when it's a flanking ship, playing off on the side, getting into those positions where it's going to get that broadside, because like we said, its AP is super devastating, especially when something gives you a good broadside. So keep that in mind. You don't want to be in a position where you're going to be taking a lot of damage from the Zao. We already talked about how squishy of a ship it is with its low HP pool. So you always want to be fighting at a distance and mostly on a flank. And you can kind of see here how me in this video, it's actually Viking and Hindenburg right there. He's positioning, those guys are going to be coming through the center. We're basically setting up a kill box here where they're going to come through. They have to angle to one of us. They can't angle to both of us. So one of us is going to have their broadside, and it's going to evaporate them. It's the plan. So you always want to be set up in a position in the Zao where you're getting a crossfire. And at the time, I think me and Viking were probably talking about this, but getting in a rhythm with your teammates where you both just kind of automatically do that by instinct, that's what separates, mediocre to good, and it'll really set you apart from other players and other teams.
If I remember this match right, we did a number on these ships.
Yeah, look at, my Zao Torps killed a Hindenburg.
Oh, man.
And then running Hydra.
Well,
that's a super general point for clan battles. Make sure you're communicating about consumable use. That's something I've noticed with particularly with Bravo in our scrims. You guys often pop consumables without telling your teammates, and with something like Hydro, it's important so that you don't double use it, so you always have Hydro running.
Or say it before you use it. Yeah. Don't say I'm popping Hydro, pop. Say I'm about to pop Hydro, so that if someone already has it up, they can go, no, don't.
I'm going to need to install this armor angle mod. God damn it.
Right there, I just did, 7 Citadels on a Des Moines because he couldn't angle to both of us. Like, holy shit. Zao AP, when used right, is super powerful. But, had he been bow on to me, my AP would have done absolutely nothing. Oh, not absolutely nothing, but pretty much nothing. You might as well have thrown rocks at him.
I would say also Minotaur will actually troll you with promising angles. Like at least when we start running into really good Minotaur players, you got AP loaded, but they will angle so well that it's really not worth it. But it really depends on who you're playing too. So.
But your HE will chew them up.
Yep.
But Minotaurs can can heal a lot of your HE damage. But again, right here's another example. Vikings got that Moscow stuck in. Moscow's slowing down. He's telling me to get into a position where I can get this Moscow. This is how the Zao, like, this is where the Zao thrives. Nobody's hitting me. You know, remember, Zao, low HP pool. They can't really do anything to me. I'm just working on getting angles on the people while our Hindenburg takes all the attention. And look at this. Perfectly broadside Moscow, stuck still. And this is the Zao's wet dream right here. And you can see too, just to get into the right position, I'm only using my front turrets as well. Just because I guess I could have gone further down the island, but I wanted to make sure I got the shot. So, boom. You know, when you play Zao like this, play a ship to its advantage. Hindenburg can tank, but you shouldn't play it bow in almost ever. That time Viking had to, because we had to angle against that Zao and other Hindenburg pushing through. Then this Moskva came through, but Viking going bow in, because he had worked with me, actually was what we wanted, because then it made that Moskva slow down, because then Viking could just rush torp him, or in that case, it allowed me to get the position on him to kill him.
Yeah, I was not in a winning position in that if Grusky was not exactly where he was doing what he was doing. Any other situation, I would be 100% running away, because that's not a winning situation for a Hindi. Because he was doing a lot of damage. If it had taken much longer to kill him, he probably would have killed me.
Yep. So, I mean, that's kind of the general of the Zao, is drill into your brain. And this actually works quite well in randoms, too. Getting in those positions where you're going to use your concealment to get those awkward angles on people where they're not expecting you. The worst thing I fear in the world is a Zao that's not spotted, especially not spotted for a while. Generally, that means they're repositioning to come and shoot you broadside. It's scary just to lose 30k health from a Zao that you had no idea was right on your flank. Especially as somebody who plays a lot of radar ships like the Des Moines. It's especially terrifying to Moscow's too. So these lessons and tactics work well in clan battles, randoms, just about everything. I don't know if you guys have any other questions or something about the Zao. I wanted to keep this kind of short, so it's just the general overview of Zao. In clan battles, stern tanking, just drill that into your brain. You outspot most cruisers other than Worcester and Minotaur. So keep that in mind, is you're gonna outspot a Hindenburg by a lot. You're gonna outspot a Henry by a lot. You're gonna outspot Moskva by a lot. Des Moines, you outspot by a little less than a kilometer. Worcester and Minotaur outspot you. I think only Worcester's by 0.7
kilometers.
200 meters. And then Minotaur is 8.9 kilometer detection. So
yeah, so 800 meters.
Yeah, so it's not a significant big distance like say Hindenburg or Henry does, or even Moskva. So keep that in mind when you're playing. That's why us and many other clans use Zao as a spotter, especially paired with RPF. Anything that comes through, they're gonna get a spot, and that also tells you if you're a Zao and they have a Worcester or a Minotaur, and you're spotted by something, it tells you either that's their DD, that's their Worcester, or that's their Minotaur. And generally, most teams don't run many of those three ships, so it can tell you, hey, the Worcester's over here, we know that for sure, or the DD's over here, we know that for sure. It can give you valuable information.
One thing I wanted to add, since I don't think you brought it up, it's not worth trying to use your torps if you're in a kiting position, because you'll give way too much broadside. So it's better to survive and just use your guns rather than trying to get that, Hail Mary torps out onto whoever's chasing you.
Your torpedoes are for use in either an ambush, where you know exactly who is where, and you know that you won't get caught with your pants down, or zoning out an area and just sending in a torpedo soup to make it so that people can't come through.
That's the other good thing to point out. The Zao's torpedo range is 12 kilometers. Its detection range is 9.7. That's a lot of stealth torp area. We've even used it in clan battles, and so have other teams where another Zao is there, just because it's typically a position the Zao goes in. Say, take the 9-10 line on hotspot, and your RPF is pointing there, so you're like, all right, there's got to be another Zao there. What it ends up being is those two Zaos end up having a torpedo battle, because they're probably only like 10 or 11 kilometers away, so they can likely torpedo each other. So it becomes just a test of luck to see who can get torpedoes off, because both of you aren't spotted. Unless one of you makes a mistake and pulls forward too much to dump torpedoes, you can get that lucky salvo. So that's one way people play it, just as using those Zao area denial torps. But that could also get you in trouble, because now they know you dumped your torpedoes. They know you might be in a bad position.
You can also get into a lot of trouble by going, I'm a Zao, I'm sneaky. Oh, they sent their destroyer over here?
Yep.
Because you might be sneaky for a cruiser, but you are way less sneaky than any destroyer out there except a Khabarovsk. But if you're in a team that's dumb enough to take a Khabarovsk, that's probably the least of your problems.
And as Lobster mentioned, Zaos destroy DDs. So if you get that DD spotted...
But only if you can spot them.
Exactly.
If they spot you first...
Don't get overconfident.
And then should we go over the whole DD smoking up Zao's thing?
Oh yeah, that's not. I don't really have too much video of that, but Zao. I forget what is Zao's stealth firing range.
Somewhere in the sevens.
Yeah, it's like 7 something.
It's 7.2.
7.2.
Yeah. So while I was fitting tools, so 7.18. So yeah, basically you have a really good stealth firing radius. If you have a DD near you, be communicating that. Just because, as we mentioned, Zao is squishy, especially if it's giving a broadside to use all of its guns, or torpedoes too. Its torpedo arcs generally suck, so you can use that to make up for your low HP pool and do a lot of damage. There was a infamous moment where we played against the Ikes. They smoked up 3 Zaos. There was a wall of torpedo, and everybody was getting hit with a 10k HC salvo by 3 different Zaos each. So
I was a victim of that.
Yeah, your whole team, our whole team melted fast. They didn't even need to use the torpedoes because their HE was doing so much damage to us.
I was in a Hindenburg. I died in, I kid you not, probably about 13 seconds.
Yep.
1 salvo from each Zao, and then like a second salvo from one of them. It was all HE, and I was gone. Because they did so much damage I mean, it's kind of a meme tactic. It's not, 3 Zaos in 1 destroyer's smoke cloud is not going to win you clan battles at a higher level. But this was like the beginning of last season when we weren't really used to the Zao's torpedoes had just gotten buffed, and the Zao in clan battles meta was not really established.
Yeah, we weren't using it properly, that's for sure.
That was bad.
So yeah, make sure you are making use of that if you are able to. I think it was during one of the King of the Seas, not the most recent one, but I think the one previously on Warrior's Path. I think PSV smoked up their Zaos on the 1-2 line, somewhere around there, and just devastated the other team on the A-cap on Warrior's Path. So keep that in mind.
I was just going to mention that when you're talking about using Zao's torps in a kiting position, I don't see any problem with that, but just take the extra 8 seconds to drop stealth between your salvos, do the torps, and then go back to shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't send off your torpedoes if you're spotted. That's a good distinction.
But they're still very useful in a kiting position, particularly since you can actually fire your torps at like 14 kilometers or so if the enemy is sailing towards you, and they'll still hit.
Yeah, agreed.
If you ever need to figure out whether or not torpedoes will hit a target that's outside of your torpedo range, just connect the vector that goes, like the line that goes in front of the target, with the line that goes along your line of bearing. And if those two connect inside your torpedo range, it will hit.
Does anybody have questions about Zao? And how to do it? Are we doing a good job clarifying of how to play it? I kind of want feedback on this as well too.
I think we've covered most of it.
I mean, that's all I had on my short little list. I wanted to keep it kind of like, keep saying short just so we don't like overwhelm, because we probably could sit here talking about Zao a whole night, but really just wanted to focus on the main points and kind of make it effective that way.
Can you clear something up for me?
Yeah.
You said take the gun reload mod if you don't have the.
No.
Take the range.
So I would take the range mod.
Oh yeah, always never take
Zao,
the
at least.
reload mod in Zao. It thrives off of range. So either take range mod if you don't have the legendary mod. If you do have the legendary mod, it is viable. Although some people actually do prefer the range mod in clan battles. I know we took it for King of the Sea because range is everything in that. Some people do swear by still taking the range mod. So that it does come down to a preference of opinion.
Okay.
Well, I think a legendary mod, right, is pretty much like the go-to. This is one of the mods that is actually pretty much a straight up buff, except for like a little loss in range.
I'll say that when I picked it up, I was very uncomfortable with it first. It took me about 10 games at least before I started to be able to hit my normal averages. So I'd say get used to it before Clan Wars.
Yeah.
And it's a good one to combine with the spotter plane mod, because if you do that, then you can cover that loss in range for a longer period of time. So if you've got both, then you're doing pretty good.
And I made a critical mistake here in this gameplay. I didn't work with my teammate, and I went bow-in. I thought we could kill that Montana quickly, so I went balls to the wall, and it fucked me. Fucked me hard.
This is one of those situations where a Hindenburg is a good ship to be in. Because its HE doesn't give a shit what kind of angle you're at. It's just going to keep pounding you, and you're going to keep taking damage.
I will mention that any cruiser with 32mm of pen can just destroy Zao. There's no funny armor on it, really, for HE.
And let's see. I'm gonna have to look at the armor thing here.
So are Zaos currently more preferred than Hindenburgs in Adopt?
I think
currently, yeah, but it really depends on the meta we see or we think we're gonna see. And like I said earlier, if we see a lot of Moskva, Stalingrads, or if GK for some reason makes an appearance, then Hindenburg will be better because they can pen that 50mm armor.
And it's significantly tankier. The real downside to the Hindi that we didn't really touch on, because this is Zao kind of central, this stream is, but its detection range is so much worse than a Zao, and in clan battles, stealth is life. So yeah, you can take more of a beating, but you're going to take a lot more of a beating. And so in that way, the Zao's actually, for the most part in clan battles, going to have better survivability than the Hindenburg, because you can stop shooting, drop detection, and not get focus fired, because focus fire is a huge factor in clan battles against the team that knows what they're doing at all.
Yeah, and I mean that also depends too. Like you said in your team lineup, we have a lot of players that are more comfortable in a Zao than a Hindenburg, so that factors in. And then also on top of that, like, dogs are barking. Like I said, we like to use its stealth to pop in and do a ton of damage and dictate the battle on our own terms.
Also,
and you can reposition faster.
Yes.
If anyone wants
You're faster with the speed flag. You're faster than a stock gearing, so you can get in position way more effectively than a Hindenburg could ever do it, because you can get there quickly and you can get there without getting seen.
And I'll
Not
probably
to talk
post
over you, Lobster.
I'll
Sorry.
post some of my games. The audio is a little bit shitty on them, but I'll post them just so you can see how to damage pad in randoms, because you should practice in randoms and have fun there.
Yeah. Any other questions before we close out, or anything we might have forgotten about? Okay. Well, I mean, if anybody thinks of anything, feel free to ask more. I definitely, if you don't have a Zao, whether you play it for clan battles or not, I definitely suggest going for it. It's one of the strongest, I don't know, tier 10 cruisers there is for clan battles. Pretty much if you have a Zao or a Hindenburg, you're likely to get a spot on our team and just about any other clan there is too. I always tell everybody, if you want a ship for clan battles to be useful for your team, those are the two ships. If you have too many Zaos, it's better than having too many of one other ship or too many of Hindenburgs as well. Kind of fall in that category. You can at least be flexible, and you could do pretty well with them as long as you have a decent plan. Obviously, if you run 5 Zaos, you're not going to do overall well, but you might do better than running, say, 5 Moskvas.
Or having got 5 guys that are really good in the Yamato.
Yeah, but you can't bring 5 Yamatos, so oh well. Yeah,
Plus, it's also really fun in randoms. Like, it's just it's a ship that's worth having in general.
The Japanese and German cruiser lines in general, they teach you a lot of good stuff about cruiser play. I always suggest those to new players to learn first. Alright, well, I'm going to close out the stream at least then.